to the Michigan defense against this Ohio State offense. High octane Ohio State offense with a great quarterback in Julian Sayin, third right now in the country in Heisman Trophy odds, behind Fernando Mendoza of Indiana and Jeremiah Love of Notre Dame. The wide receivers are as elite as it gets with Carnell Tate, who's a projected first-round draft pick, and Jeremiah Smith, who would be a first-round draft pick if he could go to the NFL after this year. Both of those guys have been banged up. Carnell Tate has not played since November 1st. Jeremiah Smith has, missed last week's game, and you look at it, and you would imagine they go. Jeremiah Smith said on, I forget whose podcast, it might be Caleb Downs or one of those guys has a podcast. It was a Players podcast, and he said this week he's going to be good to go. He should be healthy enough to play against Michigan. So you would imagine that's what he was being held out for, just like Jordan Marshall on the other side. But they've got those weapons. Bo Jackson, the freshman running back, has rushed for 835 yards, 5 touchdowns, 6.5 yards per carry. Julian Sayin at the quarterback spot, completing 79.4% of his passes, 27 touchdowns, second in the Big Ten with 2,832 passing yards, just 4 picks. That's the fewest among Big Ten quarterbacks that have started every game this year. Play action's great. The deep ball is great. Every single number you look at, this passing attack's really good. But Wink Martindale is really good too, and had their number last year. It helps to have the elite defensive tackles Michigan did, but this is probably going to be the biggest challenge that Ohio State has faced at least since the Texas game, when Texas really did do a number on that offense. It was a close, low-scoring game.
And the thing that really kind of concerns you is the interior defensive line. I think Ohio State's going to try to run the ball a little bit more, and I think that they feel like they can. There's no Mason Graham in there, no Kenneth Grant. They're going to need Rayshawn Benny to have one of those games, right? And he's played really well in this game too. I can pick out a few different plays over the years where he's made an impact in several Ohio State games. He's got to be at his best. This has got to be a Rayshawn Benny type game. Those edges have got to get home. It's going to be interesting to see how Ohio State blocks it, right? Are they going to go one-on-ones and trust their tackles against Derek Moore and against Jayshawn Barham? These guys have got to have the games of their lives too and make Julian Sayin uncomfortable. He is not – I don't think he's got a grass stain on his jersey all year, fellas, watching him. He looks like a little boy, too. It's crazy. Babyface assassin. He's been a fantastic quarterback for them and had a great year. But he is still a first-year starter in this game. And I think a lot of people, that's underrated. He doesn't seem to be the guy that's going to be flappable in this game. He seems like one of those guys that maybe the moment's not too big for him, but you just don't know until you play in it. So I'm excited about that, to see what they do against him there, to see what kind of defenses Wink Martindale throws at him, what kind of different looks, dropping back into coverage, making him go to his second and third reads. And who knows how healthy these Ohio State receivers are, but they are a different team without them. They are elite, and they are what makes everything work. We will have stories on that this week, just about how it affects everything they do, play action and having to account for them. So there's a lot for this Michigan team to prove. The back end, we watched the Maryland game, and how many posts did you see on social media? Boy, that's a touchdown if they're playing Ohio State, because receivers were open. Guys were a little bit sloppy in coverage. Safeties need to be better. It sucks that Rod Moore's not going to be out there on Saturday. He could have been a difference maker in this game and has been a difference maker in this game. So we will see what happens, but this is the biggest test, clearly, for both teams. I don't think Ohio State has not faced a defense like Michigan's this year. For all the complaining by the fans about Wink Martindale, I think he's a finalist for the Broyles Award, if I'm not mistaken. And again, nominee. Sorry. So regardless, there's still a lot to prove for both teams. And in this Michigan defense, you got Jair Hill's going to have one heck of a game. Zeke Berry. This is a huge test. And then the linebackers. I like the Michigan linebackers in this game, but it's really going to come down to how they cover in the secondary.
Michigan fans won't like me saying this, but I'm a Julian Sayin guy. I just like the way he plays. He kind of reminds me of Drew Brees in terms of a shorter guy who completes a lot of his passes and doesn't really take a ton of sacks. So I like how he plays, but on the same token, they haven't seen a line or a defense like this, like you said, since the Texas game. And that's, at this point, that's almost 3 months ago, or it is 3 months ago. So I believe that Michigan's defense will play up. I think that the pass rush is going to find a way to get some pressure, and Wink will mix some coverages up and, make him see things that he hasn't really seen all year. But the key is, and Chris, you nailed it, I think up the middle, the pressure up the middle completely changed this game last year. Now, do they have a guy on the roster that's going to take over and win this game on his own? No, they don't. So it looks a little bit different. But when you look at where the strengths of where this Ohio State offensive line is, it's more so on the outside. I think up the middle, particularly at the center and one of the guard spots, I think there's an opportunity there to kind of push this pocket a little bit, get a guy on the move who really, I have to go and look, he hasn't really had to make a ton of plays with his legs this year. So get him off his spot. A guy like Jeremiah Smith, you say he's going to get his, but he didn't get his in last year's game. I think they're going to force feed him the ball. I think that if they want to try and run the ball, more power to them. I think that's the direct reason that they lost last year's game is the hubris of thinking they could out-tough Michigan, and they might be able to. This team's good enough to do that, but I think defensively, Michigan's got, they saw the Texas game. They've got 11 games of tape now to kind of figure this out, and they do watch film on this team every single week. So of all the things that I feel confident about in this game, there's this idea that Ohio State's got this gear that they've been waiting to unleash for the Michigan game. Maybe, but even when Michigan has played some of the most explosive offenses on its schedule this year, you're talking 24 points at Oklahoma and the 31 points at USC. This defense, I think, is going to hang in there and give them a chance to win this game.
And Jeremiah Smith, 7 targets last year in the game, so it's not like they didn't go at him at all. But certainly,
I remember last year the starting secondary was Amir Hall, Zeke Berry. Was Mason Curtis starting at a safety spot? Makari Page was playing the slot. I think they had Quentin Johnson.
Wesley
had a little bit less there than they do this year. So we'll see.
And it took an OPI on a touchdown that wasn't called for Smith to get his one big play.
Yeah. Yeah, he had 35 yards in the game. But no, you're right, Anthony. I think last year's group was much more veteran. You had Wesley Walker, Quentin Johnson as the safeties, Makari Page as the nickel, Zeke Berry, and Amir Hall. This group, it feels like playing the ball has been a bit of an issue. You see some pass interference. You see sometimes they don't turn their head. The Ohio State players, unlike Wildy, the kid from Northwestern, they're not just going to let the ball go through their arms. Like, they're going to make those plays. So, yeah, they're going to have a few of those. You got to be able to, make sure you keep them out of the end zone, line it back up, have the memory of a goldfish, and just play the next play. But, at the same time, if Michigan's in zone coverage and they're looking that, towards the quarterback and they have an opportunity to get their hands on the football, they have to come down with it. They can't be Josh Metellus 2017. They can't be Jair Hill in like 5 games this year, or Zeke Berry against Northwestern where he dropped the pick. I mean, it could be the difference in the game. The Maryland game, Bryce almost throws a pick, and next thing you know, Michigan comes down and scores. That could have been a pick 6 and they're losing. Instead, it's not. Like, these margins are so slim, especially in a game like this. So if the Michigan secondary, which is okay, not very good, gets their hands on the football, they got to come down with it, which is going to be huge. And then really the run game, you mentioned it, Anthony, like this is an offensive line that's pretty good. Not as good as last year's Ohio State offensive line. The right side is a bit of an issue. They rotate at right guard. The right tackle is a transfer from Minnesota who did not open last year as a starter. Came out of camp as a backup in Minneapolis. So there's, that right side is a concern, I know, for a lot of Ohio State people. Their run game has been pretty good, not great this season. And they haven't really faced a team that stops the run like Michigan. I mean, no one has gone over 175 yards on the ground other than, no one's gone over 139 yards on the ground other than USC. Can't throw that game out because we all saw it, and it's burned into memory, some of those plays. But at the same time, Michigan has tightened some things down since then. So they've got to bring their best in that regard. They can't allow any big runs. But I don't expect a ton of room for Bo Jackson and the bevy of backs, as Sharon Moore would say. He loves that word, that Ohio State throws out there. But at the same time, you got to make sure that's the case and then get after saying third down is always been huge in this game, whether it's Aiden Hutchinson getting his sacks in 2021 and changing the game. 2 of his 3 sacks came on third down, or, it's forcing them to a field goal, that 4-point difference between a touchdown and a field goal. Ohio State on third down this season, one of the best teams in the country. They're second at 55.8% conversion rate. They are 9 of 13 on fourth down, which is 15th in the country at 69.2%. The interesting thing about how good this offense has been is that they don't find themselves in many third downs. They faced the fewest amount of third downs in the country this year, 113. A lot of those have been manageable. That's why they picked them up. And a lot of those, you just first and second down success is great. But if you get to third and long, Sayan's been really good this year. But, if Michigan's disciplined with the way they rush, you can get after this guy. Anthony, you mentioned it. I have the numbers there. -6 design rush yards for Julian Sayan this year. But scrambling, 20 scrambles for 45 yards. He's not a mobile quarterback. He's got great guys he can get the ball out to. It's a great system. It's a great scheme. But if you make him uncomfortable and the crowd's getting after him, third down is going to be so big. It sounds cliche, but when you're breaking down a game of this magnitude, those margins, those big plays, the 5 to 7 gotta have it downs in a game. If 3 or 4 of them go your way, you're sitting there at the end with a chance.
And that's why one of the keys to the game, everybody says, well, stop the pass, stop the pass. To me, it's stop the run first still, because if you get them in third and short and you've got them guessing, whether it's play action or whatever, you're going to get destroyed. That's just the way it is against this offense. So this third down defense has been much better for Michigan in recent weeks. Again, they haven't seen anything close to what they're going to see against Ohio State, right? But they've improved. And that's going to be one of the keys on both sides of the ball. And for the Michigan offense, right, they were 12 of 14. I don't care who you're playing. 12 of 14 is stupid good against Maryland. So that's going to be one of the keys to the game. And the special teams, obviously, too. So Hudson Hollenbeck's got to have his best game of his Michigan career. You cannot give these guys short fields, fellas. You give these guys the ball at the 45-yard line, they're going to score some points somehow. So unless Fielding starts spraying field goals all over the place like he did last year. And you know what? It's got to be still in his head. He's got to still be thinking about it. So Dominic Zavadov's got to be good too. But yeah, this Ohio State offense is fun to watch. But again, who have they really played? We're going to find out. But I guarantee you, it's going to be one of those games where they're not going to make the same mistakes they did last year. And they still threw the ball a lot, guys, right? They really did. And I think that the Howard concussion that was a factor in that game too. But there are so many weapons on this team that it's pick your poison. These guys are all going to have to play above their heads in this game.
Yeah, and we don't usually do the special teams breakdown, and we don't need to do that here. But the punting game for Michigan, flipping the field, is huge. Andrew Marsh is your punt returner now. Can you pick up a couple first downs in the punt return game and hold on to the football? Those are the areas too where that can, for as many struggles as Tommy Doman had as Michigan's punter last year. Last year was one of his best games. That's huge. So need a big day out of that side of the ball as well.
No doubt. I was just about to mention Jaden Fielding as well before we move on to our predictions. 13 of 15 this year, 49-yard long. That is his career long. So that's kind of the range you're looking at for Ohio State. And one of the misses was from 50+. So he's been really good this year. He was really good last year. He was 13 of 17 last season. 2 of those misses on easy kicks against Michigan. So you just never know, right? If special teams is going to be a net neutral, I think you'll kind of take it if you're Michigan at this point. But if it's going to be a net negative for the better team, then you open yourselves up to getting upset like Ohio State did last year.
And don't discount how important banging through a 46-yarder was for Dominic Zavada last week. I think that in a blowout, regardless, I think that was big for him.
No doubt.